Welcome. I am Nikki Novotny with Art on the Go, and today your exclusive video, watermelon summertime door hanger. Let's go through the supplies that you're going to need today. I'm going to use some red, I've got some teal, black, green, and white are going to be my base colors. I have my palette, which I have as a reusable palette. You can also use a paper plate and also have some napkins. I have a variety of brushes as well as some water in my cup. So we want to make sure that before we get started, we're going to want to dry our brushes off to make sure that they're not going to have any water in the bristles. So make sure you dry that off well. You don't want that water to mix with it, especially on wood. It won't stay very well on there. Next I'm going to give my red a little shake here. Put a little red on my plate and white. So first we get that brush all dried off. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take some of this red and a little bit of some white. I want it to be a dark pink, but I also want to make sure that it's not just a solid red. Adding white helps brighten that red up a little bit. I like to have my colors not be all the same throughout the whole project. I like to have a little variation of colors, so therefore I don't blend my colors together on the plate. I blend them together on my project. So what I'm going to do is start by doing the center of my watermelon, because that is going to be the part that needs to dry the most. Go somewhat out to the edge there. And it's okay to leave some of those little light pink streaks or dark pink streaks in there. You can always make it a little bit darker by adding more red. If you add a little white, you'll make it a little lighter. Colors only blend together when they are wet. So if you're trying to mix colors together, make sure that you do them fast. And don't wait too long before you try to blend them in, because they will dry pretty fast using acrylic paint, and then they will no longer blend together. It's going to kind of smooth around that little edge there, so I've got a nice edge to work with around the rind of my watermelon. Let's not forget to do this edge of your cutout for your door hanger. Once you get that, we're going to take this brush and dip it back into the water. We're going to give it a rinse so that color does not stay in that brush. Next, we're going to start working on the rind color, which I'm going to do a dark green and a teal color. Now let's take a little bit of this teal. I'm going to use my smaller brush this time. I'm going to add a little bit of this white in there too to lighten it a tad. Now that this is dry, you can make a lovely contrast in that rind. I'm overlapping that pink just a little bit. You can make your rind as large or small as you prefer it. You make a double row here. My dark green is going to come in and cover up a little bit of this rind as well, which is perfect. Again, those two colors will blend together if they are not dry. So make sure that you let layers dry in between so that they do not blend together. Unless, of course, you are trying to get a nice little blend, you want to do that while things are still a little wet. If the color is showing through the back of your color and you're not a fan of it, let it dry completely before you do another layer. Otherwise, what's going to happen is it's just going to blend together. On the edges here, make sure that we paint that rind right around those edges as well. Shouldn't take too long. I did have a little tiny smudge there, a little drip from dragging the teal over, but that is quite alright because I will put a polka dot right there. Second layers are great for lighter colors like yellow, sometimes white. This teal seems to need a second layer, so I'm just going over it. Again, catching those edges. Then, of course, gonna rinse out that brush. Now for this one, I'm going to make this say Hello Summer. So I want to make sure that I have some polka dots in the back, which also could be like seeds for me. I'm super excited. I think I'm going to go with some white seeds. I have plenty of white out here. So what I'm going to do next is take my round brush, the one I just got done using, and make sure it's nice and clean. I'm going to take some white. I'm going to make some white small polka dots. So let's start with a few small, just by rotating your brush. Depending on the size of the brush will depend on the size that you do for your polka dots. You can always make these polka dots bigger. I try not to plan them out too much. Now I'm going to make some light pink. I'm going to take a little bit of some white and then add it into the corner of my red here to get a nice little pile of some paint. I want to make sure that it's considerably different than my watermelon color. So it's going to be very light colored pink. I got my color that I'm liking. I'm going to make a little bit bigger polka dots. Now that's almost too light. Let's add a little bit more of that red back in there. And maybe now I'm going to swirl it. There we go. Just a little shade darker. Simple polka dots. Simply put your brush and make a circle. Make sure you have enough paint, but not too much paint. There we go. I think that's probably pretty good on those little polka dots there. Let's rinse this out. Now I do want to get some decor in the outside of my rind. So I'm going to use some white using that same round brush, my medium-sized brush here. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to make some stripes on my watermelon rind. You'll notice I'm making 2 swipes on my white stripes. First one is to lay down a thicker layer of paint, and the second is to smudge it out a little bit so that it's not so thick and it covers well. Go back and make any of these a little bit wider if you need. Love to make polka dots. They are one of my favorite shapes. I'm going to do a fun polka dot. This one I'm going to use my bigger brush, and it's going to be a little more simple. Dry that off. I'm going to flip it over and use the back side of the brush for my next polka dots. And I'm going to use that pink color that I used for my polka dots. I'm going to dip it into that pink, and it kind of looks like a little chocolate chip on there. And then in between each one of these white lines that I made, I'm going to put a little dot in between each one of them on the teal color that I made. A really fun and easy way to make a pretty precise polka dot. Now I'm going to do some little fun polka dots in the center, and I'm going to actually let's use a little tiny bit of some black. This time I'm going to use a smaller brush for some smaller polka dots. Off that brush. Again, I'm going to use the back side of the brush, dip, make a few black polka dots, just little tiny ones. Now one of my favorite little embellishments to add on to my polka dots is some little circles. So I'm going to actually take a little tiny fine brush, and I'm going to kind of accent around some of these big polka dots. Just for fun of that. And then I'm going to use the back side of this brush, and I'm going to add a little white polka dot in the center. Let's go ahead and write Hello Summer. Up on the top here I'm going to write a small little hello and then summer across the bottom. Now with my little bit smaller brush here, I can go through and kind of detail some of that a little bit more, which if you're like me, could take hours when it comes to detailing. That's what a small brush is great for. Now you can also buy stencils, you can use stencils. There are many options around freehanding some letters. This just happens to be the easiest way for me. Check back often for more projects right here on the Creative Place. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you guys had a great time following along and creating your own fun summer door hanger. See you next time.